our society and to our economy,
Right.
and and who do you want on the team? And it's not to say that, like in my opinion, actually, I'd say like probably most of the illegal immigrants actually are actually good, hardworking people. That's my opinion. Um, but some are not, and you just have this sort of adverse selection process where, if somebody's if somebody's like you know uh, has a career in theft or robbery, I don't understand what's taken them so long to get here, because we're in such a target-rich environment. Um, I mean, why aren't more people who have a career in, bad things coming here sooner? Because I mean, it's a piece of cake to go rob, houses in LA or New York, compared to other parts of the world. And, in a lot of places in America, if you try to stop the person who's robbing you, you'll be arrested.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's insane.
It's right. I mean, what's happening with crime, and our police are so good, but they're not allowed to do their job. But I have to tell you, Elon, I
They're
hate
not.
to say it because it's such a downer to say it. I hate to say it. I hate it. But f- you have a lot of people that just shouldn't be. I think it's a much bigger number than you think. They're
I
allowing,
think you're
again,
right.
they're
Yeah.
allowing people from their jails. And if you were running one of these countries where they're coming from, you would have had all of them. As an example, Venezuela, their crime is down 72%. They're taking their drug dealers, they're taking, frankly, their prisoners, they're emptying out their prisons, they're taking their criminals, their murderers, their rapists, and they're
Yeah.
delivering them into
But
the.
that's what Castro did.
Yeah,
That
well, he did on a much smaller scale.
yeah,
You know, it was a much smaller
yeah.
scale. But this is a massive scale because this is being done worldwide. But here's what's happening: crime all over the world is down. And wait till you see the numbers that we have. You know, this is migrant crime. This is crime that's going to be.
Yeah.
And I saw it today in New York where somebody was knifed with raped the girlfriend of a man that stood there watching in New York in one of the shelters and started
Sure.
pulling out the knives, and bad things happen today. But this is happening every day. These are rough people. These are people that are in jail for
Yeah.
murder and all sorts of things, and they're releasing them into our country, and they're telling them, if you come back, we're going to kill you. We're going to give you the death penalty or kill you. So they don't want to come back. But these are rough people.
Yeah.
These are criminals that make our criminals look like nice people, and it's horrible what they're doing. And she's in charge of it because now she's trying to say she
Sure.
had nothing to do with it, and she's such a liar because she was called the border czar the first day, and it was on the headlines of every newspaper. She's the border czar, and she never even went there. She went to one location, which had nothing to do with where the problem is. She went in and out, I
Right.
guess, because she was getting a lot of pressure,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
had nothing to do with the problem
Yeah.
is. But she was
Well.
the
Well.
border czar, and the people
Yeah. Yeah.
can't allow them to get away with their disinformation campaign. Now she's trying to say that she wasn't. She wasn't really involved, and the whole thing is horrible. She was totally in charge. She could have shut the border down without him. He didn't know what he was doing anyway, so he wouldn't have even known
Yeah.
what happened. You could shut the border down; he wouldn't
Yeah.
even know the difference. But uh, the fact is that she was border czar. But if you don't have to call her
Yes.
that, the fact is you could just call her. She was in charge of the border, and the border was the worst
Right.
ever.
It's simply not working.
No,
It's,
it's
I mean,
horrible.
whether it's a question of intention or competence, either way, we don't have a secure border, and we have people streaming over like it looks like a World War Z zombie apocalypse at times. And sometimes you got to sort of wonder, like, is it real or not? So because you see things, you're like, is it real? So I went to the border at Eagle Pass, and I saw for myself in Texas, and I was like, okay, it's real. I'm like seeing this in real time. I actually posted the video like just live. I just flew there one day and just to see, hey, is this made up or real? And I'm just seeing people stream across the border, and I have to say, at least the people that I saw did not look friendly. So
These are
people
people.
can look at my video and say, hey,
Yeah.
does these people look friendly? I don't look super friendly. So,
These are people that
um,
Elon would not be the same man if he had to walk across the street and look these people in the eye. These are rough people. These are really rough people coming across. And I know rough people. And these are people that we don't want in our country. And the caravans are coming in, and they're putting, and who's doing this are the heads of the countries. And you would be doing
Yeah,
it, and so would I. And everyone would say, "Oh, what a terrible thing to say." The fact is, it's brilliant for them because they're taking all of their bad people, really bad people. And I hate to say this, the reason the numbers are much bigger than you would think is they're also taking their non-productive people. Now, these aren't people that will kill you. We have enough of them, but these are people that are non-productive. They are just not productive. I mean, for whatever reason, they're not
yeah, yeah,
workers, or they don't want to work, or whatever. And these countries are getting rid of non-productive people in the caravans in many cases, and they're also getting rid of their murderers and their drug dealers and the people that are
yeah,
really brutal people. And they're coming into our country
yeah,
at levels that have never been seen before. And I saw an ad just before I got on the air. I'm walking over here, and I saw an ad by Kamala saying how she is going to provide border security. Where has she been for 3.5 years? For 3.5 years,
yeah. No, no. This is
we have 20
this
million
this
people
this I
poured
think is
in. It's a terrible
yeah. I
thing.
think this, frankly, I think this is a fundamental existential issue for the United States. And if we have another 4 more years of open borders, and it's going to be even worse with another 4 more years, it's going to be even worse than it's been for the past 3.5 years. I'm not sure we've got a country
You don't have
left
a country
at that
left.
point.
Elon, if they get in, you will have 50 to 60 million people from all over the world, not South America only. We think of South America, we think of Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico, the four. But it's not that. It's everywhere. They're coming in from
Yeah,
everywhere. And I had to stay in
yeah, I think
Mexico.
this is a super important
Yeah.
point. Like people, it's like basically when I went down there, I was like, well, where are people from? It's like almost no one was from Mexico. To be
No,
clear,
Mexico
it's
less,
it's just it's just
less
it's
than
just the
the others.
border. It's just the border with Mexico. But the people coming in, it's Earth, the rest of Earth, and America is only about 4 or 5% of the population of Earth. It would only take a few percent of the rest of Earth to overwhelm everything in the
We're
U.S.
already
So
overwhelmed, Elon. We're overwhelmed. You had to see the news tonight about New York. New York, and I love that place, and what they're doing to it is horrible, what they're doing to it. And all the courts do is they
yeah,
try and focus on Trump. Okay, let's focus on Trump, who did nothing wrong. I complain about a rigged election. Elon, what's happened is unbelievable. You have from Africa, from the Congo, they're coming from the Congo, and 22 people came in from the Congo recently, and they're murderers, and they're dropped. They drop them. They take them out of jails, which is very expensive, to maintain the jails. Although they don't do too much maintaining, I can tell you. But they take them out of jails, prisons. They take them out, and they bring them to the United States. They deposit them in the United States and say, "Don't ever come back, or you're going to be executed." And they don't want to come back, but they won't come back.
sure.
But they're coming from Africa. They're coming from Asia. They're coming from the Middle East. They're coming from South
Well,
America.
just
They're
Earth,
coming from
rest of Earth,
everywhere.
basically.
And there are a lot of
Yeah,
really
everywhere on
bad
Earth.
ones.
It's just a, it's just an everywhere on Earth thing, and it's just not possible for the United States to absorb everyone from Earth, or even a few percent of the rest of Earth. It's just not possible.
Well,
So
Elon, we're going to have
that's
just to
yeah,
finish this up. We're going to have the largest deportation in history of this country, and we have no choice. Otherwise, we're going to have a country. What they've done to our country. Think of it, with in Venezuela and in some of these other countries, crime is down 50, 60, 70, 80%. And you would be the same. You would have.
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
tell you what, Venezuela has not gotten rid of all of them. They've gotten rid of about 70% of their really bad people. Their jails are about 50% uh, put into the United States. Same with other countries. Some
sure,
are 30%, some are at 50%. They're all different. But the bottom line is they're all going to be at 100%. Why wouldn't you put 100% of,
yeah,
and they're doing it right now while this third-rate phony candidate, don't forget, I beat Biden. He failed in the debate miserably. And, some people said, oh, gee, it's too bad. It's too bad he did so badly, or I did well in the debate. The first night they said, wow. One of the people at CNN said that was the greatest debate performance I've ever witnessed. And then 2 days later, they didn't talk about that. They just said he was bad. But that's okay. That's the way I get treated. And I don't mind that at all. What I can tell you is this: We cannot have a Democrat. We cannot have her. She's incompetent. She's as bad as Biden in a
It's
different. Look,
yeah.
she hasn't done an
I mean,
interview since this
yeah.
whole scam started.
Well,
And say what you want. This
yeah.
was a coup. This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said we can do it the nice
Yeah.
way or we can do it the
No.
hard way.
Yeah. Not, I mean, they just took him out back behind the shed and basically shot him.
Oh, what they did
Biden.
with this guy,
So
and I'm no
yeah.
fan of his, and he was a horrible president, the worst president in history. And one of the reasons he was so bad, first of all, the Israeli attack would have never happened. Russia would never have attacked Ukraine, and we'd have no inflation. And we wouldn't have had the Afghanistan mess, if you think of it,
Well,
and we wouldn't have had
yeah.
Afghanistan. But we think of it,
Well, yeah.
you take a few of those events away, and we have a different world. We would also have
No,
no
no, you're yeah.
inflation was caused by oil.
Yeah, no, no. I think you're making an excellent point here, which is that when other countries can, that are, are thinking about invading or doing bad things, when they're thinking about that, they're thinking about, okay, what's the American president going to do, and do they fear the American president, or is it someone they do not respect or and do not fear? And I think they would they rightfully be. I mean, look at the footage of the assassination. They're like, okay, you know, uh, President Trump is like, don't mess with me. I mean, that's like, but whereas I think people are not going to be, and they obviously have not been at all intimidated by Biden, and they certainly will not be intimidated by Kamala. And you have to really think of that in the context of global security. That if the American president is someone that like evil dictators are scared of, that makes a huge difference to the security of the world.
So I had a good relationship with Putin, despite the Russia hoax that lasted for over 2 years. Just a hoax created by Hillary Clinton and Adam Shifty Schiff, some just bad people, just sick people, frankly. I mean, Schiff is a sick person. He's going to end up probably being a senator. It's hard to believe. The whole thing is hard to believe. But, they put our country in danger with that stuff, too. They actually, when they make up stories, and you have to fight your way out of it for a long time. But I know Putin very well. I got along with him very well. He respected me, and it's just one of those things. And we would talk a lot about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. But I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. I shut down Nord Stream 2. That was the big oil pipeline, the biggest, I think, the biggest pipeline in the world going all over Europe. I shut it down. Biden came, and then they say,
Yeah,
I loved Russia. I was a friend of Putin, and I loved Russia. No, he actually said to me one time, he said, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you as an enemy. I shut down his pipeline, the biggest pipeline. They were looking at that to
yeah,
fund, and this pathetic president gets in there, and the first thing he did, one of the early things he did, is he shut down Keystone XL pipeline, which is our pipeline that would have employed 48,000 people, pipeline workers, shuts it down. That was, a massive job that Obama refused to allow.
yeah,
I allowed it in my first week because it was jobs and it moved oil. And by the way, in a much more environmentally friendly way. It's underground. It's not a truck that catches on fire or a train that catches on fire. But think of it. He shut down the uh, XL pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline. He
yeah.
shuts that down and he approves the Russian pipeline,
Yeah, it doesn't make any
right?
sense. It's like it's inconsistent. Certainly, but I mean, I think it's just worth emphasizing, to listeners that the immense importance of whether the United States president is intimidating or not intimidating, and how much that matters to global security, because there's some real tough characters out there, and if they don't think the American president is tough, they will do what they want to
I
do,
know every one of
and
them.
it puts the whole
Yeah.
world in danger.
Elon, I know every one
It's
of
a
them,
big
and I know
deal.
them well. I know
Yeah,
Putin. I know President Xi. I know Kim Jong Un of North Korea. I know every one of them. And let me tell you, people will say, "Oh, this is terrible." He said, "I'm not saying anything good or bad. They're at the top of their game. They're tough. They're smart. They're vicious, and they're going to protect their country. Whether they love their country, they probably do. It's just a different form of love, but they're going to protect their country. But these are
yeah,
tough people at the top of their game. And when they see a Kamala or when they see Biden, Sleepy Joe, they can't even
yeah,
believe it. They can't believe this happened. All the stuff that you're seeing now, all the horror that you look at Israel, they're all waiting for an attack from Iran. Iran would not be attacking, believe me. When I was there, and I say it with respect because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran, but they knew not to mess around. Iran was broke because I told China, if you buy from Iran oil, it's all about the oil. That's where the money is. But if you buy oil from Iran, you're not going to do any business with the United States. And I meant it. And they said, we'll
Yeah,
pass.
yeah,
They didn't buy oil. Other countries, likewise,
sure.
you want to buy, you're not doing business with the United States. And they were at a point where they had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for any of these instruments of terror. And it was amazing. In fact, there were articles when I was leaving, which is hard to believe, actually, especially when you look at what's happened to our country. Our country is so bad right now. It's such a different place. We were respected. Think of it. 4 years ago, we were so respected to a point where when I said don't buy oil, they didn't buy oil, but they had no
Yeah,
money,
yeah,
and Israel would have never been attacked. Zero chance. And again, I said to Vladimir Putin, I say, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it. And I told him things that what I do, and he said, no way. And I said, way. And it's the last time we ever had the conversation. He would never have done. I got along well with him. I hope to get along well with him again. Getting along well with them is a good thing, not a bad thing. I got along well with Kim
yeah,
Jong Un. When I met with President Obama just before entering, it's a sort of a ritual. And I sat down with him and we talked. It was supposed to be for a very short period of time. It turned out to be a long period of time. I said, what's the biggest problem? He said, North Korea. I had that problem worked out very quickly. It was nasty at the beginning with Rocket Man and all the different things,
yeah.
but all of a sudden I
Those
got a
some those
call.
those some
Oh,
those were some epic tweets, by the way.
yeah, they
Those
were
were
no,
like
they were epic.
absolutely.
Everything he said that he has a red button on his desk. I said, I have a red button on my desk too, but my red button is much bigger, and my red button works. And then I called him Little
Yeah.
Rocket Man. If Little Rocket Man. Anyway, here's the bottom line. All of a sudden I got a call from him and they said they want to meet. They want to meet me. And we met,
Yeah,
as you remember, we met in Singapore. We met also in Vietnam. And I got along with them great. We were
yeah.
in no danger. But
Yeah.
President Obama,
It's
President
because
Obama thought
they
we were going to
respond.
end up in
Yeah,
a nuclear war with him. And let me tell you, he's
yeah.
got a
It's not
lot of
true.
nuclear
Yeah,
stuff too. He's
exactly.
got plenty of nuclear.
It's
He can do plenty of damage.
it's
So,
yes. I mean, it's because I mean, people like Kim Jong Un. They respond to
yeah.
strength, not weakness.
Well,
And
he and I got it.
if you
He and I
project
had a good
strength, they
relationship.
you're good.
Remember, I
Yeah.
remember I met him and we walked onto his land. Nobody ever walked onto his land before. I walked onto. I wouldn't
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Let's
That
bring
was
up
cool.
Secret Service again. I wouldn't say they were thrilled when I did that. I walked onto his land, and it was an amazing period. But we were not in danger with him because of me. I always
Yeah.
say that we have enemies on the outside and we have enemies on the inside. We have some really bad people in our government and people that are and controlling of the people. I mean, I'd mention names, but I really don't want to give them the credit. But we have some really bad, and I say they're more dangerous than Russia and China. If you have a smart president, a president that gets it, we are not in danger from those countries because they need us and they need our help. I mean, we forced Obama, if you think about it, Obama and Biden and Bush, to a certain extent, in all fairness, forced Russia and China together. And if you're a history student, the first thing you learn is you cannot let Russia and China align. But then they also got, if you take a look, Iran and they have North Korea. That's, they call it the axis of evil. In the old days, you had the axis of evil. Here we have a modern day axis of evil. These are powerful countries, very heavy nuclear, which is the biggest threat.
Yeah.
The biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise one eighth of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming, because we have 5 countries
Well,
now that
yeah.
have significant nuclear power, and we have to not allow anything to happen with stupid people like Biden. Biden did something with Russia. There was no chance of him ever going in. And when I left, and then after I left, they started forming big armies on the border with Ukraine, right? And I looked at that, and I thought he was doing that because Putin's a good negotiator. I thought he was doing that to negotiate. But then Biden started saying such stupid things. For instance, he said that it can be a NATO country. Now, Russia, for as long as there's been NATO, has said we're never going to agree to that. And we go right up front and say that. And we did things and said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ. He had a low IQ 30 years ago, by the way, but now he might not even have a IQ at all. There's nothing on the board that goes this low. He said things that were so stupid that war would have been that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying
Yeah.
everything the opposite. And it's so sad because many more people have been killed in Ukraine than you read about. You don't read about how bloody it is and how disaster.
Sure.
Hey, look, just in the two armies, you lost 500,000 people. And
Yeah.
you know, Ukraine's having a hard time. Ukraine, I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
the article recently, and it's true. You don't hear the true story, but if you think about it, Russia's gone. You know, Russia defeated Germany with us, and they defeated Napoleon. You know, they've been around a long time. They're a big fighting
Yeah.
force,
Sure. Of
and it's
course.
very unfair. And Ukraine now doesn't have enough men. They're now using young men and very old men to fight, and we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I can tell you I could have stopped that, and a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have happened. But we had a
Yeah.
man that actually made it more prevalent. It was so bad. The words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from a stupid face that he was using. I said, this guy's going to cause us a war. He's going to cause us. And let me tell you,
Yeah.
it can
Yeah.
lead to World War III. That can lead to World War III. The Middle East can lead to. We have numerous places that could end up in a
Yeah.
World War III right now for no reason
No,
whatsoever.
I think you're right. I think people underrate the risk of World War III, and it's just when you're looking at the risk of global thermonuclear warfare, it's game over for humanity, and that's it's something that people have, I think, after the end of the Cold War, people have become complacent about, but they actually have forgotten that there are currently a lot of nuclear missiles that have targeting parameters for the United States from other
100%.
countries.
And one of the things
And
we're going to do is
it's
we're going to
yeah,
build an iron dome over us. Israel has it. We're going to have the best iron dome in the world. We need it, and we're going to make it all in the United States. But we're going to have protection because it just takes one maniac to start something. We're going to have protection, and we're going to have. Why shouldn't we have an iron dome? Israel has one. Some other places
yeah,
have one that nobody even knows about, frankly. But Israel has it. We're going to have an iron dome. But with all of that being said, to me that's so important, the most important. But with all of that being said, the election's coming up, and the people want to hear about the economy and the fact that they
absolutely, sure.
can't buy groceries because they don't have enough money to buy groceries. The inflation has killed them. Food prices are up 50, 60, even 100% in some cases. And this stupid administration allowed this to happen. And it's a shame. And that's the thing that people most care about, in my opinion. They care about the border a lot. And we discuss the border at great length. It's nice to have a
Yeah, yeah,
forum like this where I can discuss something at length. And by the way, you think Biden could do this interview? Do you think that Kamala could do this interview? They would take a pass on
no, they
you.
could not.
So they don't need Elon. They don't need Elon screaming out questions. It's pretty sad when you think that somebody that does this for a living can't answer a question or is afraid to do an interview. And in her case, with a very friendly interview, she's got all friendly interviewers. It's pretty sad.
Yes,
But the
absolutely.
big thing now is the
Well,
economy, Elon.
yeah,
And as much as
yeah,
I mean, I view nuclear as the single most important thing, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't understand that. But it doesn't have to. If I understand it, that's all you need. Because if I was president, you're not going to have that kind of a problem. But the thing that they really is making them angry is what Kamala and Biden have allowed to happen to the economy. It's a disaster with inflation. The inflation, it
yeah,
doesn't matter what you make. The inflation is eating you alive. If you're a worker or if you're just a middle income person, You can't afford, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using
Yeah.
all their money and borrowing money just to live. It's a horrible thing
Right.
that's happening, and we'll end that
Well, I think
quickly.
a lot of yeah, a lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation comes from government overspending because the checks never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the government spends far more than it brings in, that increases the money supply, and if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services,
That's right.
that's inflation. Um, so really, we need to have we need to reduce our government spending, and we need to re-examine. I think we need like a government efficiency commission to say like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible? Where is it not
Right.
sensible? And we need to live within our means. We're currently adding, I think, $1 trillion to the deficit every roughly
Right.
every 100 days.
That's right.
And the interest payments on the national debt have now exceed the defense budget. It's on the order of $1 trillion,
It's interest.
and it keeps
Yeah, I
growing.
rebuilt our military, largely rebuilt our military, did a great job on it, which was so important. We had jets, we had fighters that were, and bombers that were 70 years old, and we did a great job in that. Then by the way, then we gave 85 billion of it back to Afghanistan, if you can believe it. We gave them 85 billion. They're one of the largest sellers
Yeah,
of military equipment in the world. They're selling what we gave them. That was one of the most embarrassing days in the history of our country. But if you think about, let's go back to the economy. We have to bring energy
yeah.
prices down. Energy started at the price of gasoline. Now your cars don't require too much gasoline, so you have a good, and you do make a great product. I have to say, I have to be honest with you.
Thank
That
you.
doesn't mean everybody should have an electric car, but these are minor details. But your product is incredible. But the
Thank you.
gasoline, Elon, is the cost of energy. Not only gasoline, it's the cost of heating your house and cooling your house. That has
Sure.
to come down. It's gone up 100%, 150, and 200%, and that has to come down. When that comes down, and we're going to
Yeah.
drill, baby, drill. They stopped drilling, and then they went back to drilling because they went back to the Trump policy. But if they won the day after they get into office, this country will go out of business because they're going to go to an energy policy that's not sustainable. Wind and different things. You're not going to have anything.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big fan of the AI, and I have to say
Yeah.
that AI, and this is shocking to me, but AI requires twice the energy that the country already produces for everything. So you're going to have to build. We're going to have to build a lot of energy if our country will be competitive with China, because that's our primary competitor for this on the AI. You're going to
Sure.
need a lot of
Well, I mean,
electricity. You're going to need tremendous
yeah.
electricity, like almost double what we produce now for the whole country, if you can believe it.
Sure. Well, just going, back to this, like this basic thing, which that people try to make it sound complicated, but it's not. But inflation is caused by government
Right.
overspending. Would you agree that we need to take a look at government
Yes.
spending and have perhaps a government efficiency commission that just tries to make the spending sensible and so the country lives within its means, just like a
The
person does.
waste is incredible, and nobody
It
negotiates
is.
prices. You used to have a lot of people making jets, and you end up with two companies, and they'll probably try and merge at some point. I mean, I went through it like Air Force, just a thing like Air Force One. One of the first documents they asked me to sign, a general walks in, sir, would you please sign this document? And what is it? Air Force One. That's with Boeing, which is basically two planes, two 747s, and the price was
Yeah.
$5.7 billion for two planes. Now they're
Wow.
highly sophisticated.
That's
They're
insane.
even nicer than your plane, okay? But much more sophisticated. They're very. I won't say what's on it, but they got a lot of stuff on it. Anyway, but it's
Sure.
5.7. I
That's a crazy
It's a
number.
crazy number, but I said I'm not going to pay 5.7. I'm not going to do it. I said, who made the deal? Obama and his people. I said, well, then I know the deal's no good. I'm not going to do it. And over a course of about 4 weeks, by my saying I'm not going to do it, I got the price reduced by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane, other than we had a nicer paint job, if you want to know the truth. But for the exact same plane, I saved one. And I said to Boeing, man, you guys must make a lot of money if you can reduce the price by that. But now what I do hear is that they're going back to the Biden administration and wanting big cost overruns, because they see these dopey suckers in there and they'll end up getting some of the money back. But I shaved it by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane. And you can now take that and multiply that out times thousands of other
Exactly.
items. And
Multiply it by
yeah,
a
the
zillion,
numbers are
and yeah, yeah.
astronomical. I agree with you.
Well, I mean, if so, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. I'd be happy to help out on such a commission
I'd love
if
it.
it were formed.
Well, you're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, "You want to quit?" They go on
Yeah.
strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike, and you say, "That's okay. You're all gone. You're all gone." So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it. But if you look at Argentina.
Well, I'd be happy to
Yeah, by
help
the way,
out.
congratulations. I
Yeah.
just looked at the number of people that are listening to you and I chat. We'll call it a chat. But
Yeah.
congratulations. This is very good. I mean, it's great. And you're an interesting character. The new head of a place called Argentina, and he's a big,
Malay's
he's
awesome.
he's great. And
Yeah.
he's a big MAGA fan, that he ran on MAGA. And he took it to an extreme too. He ran on MAGA, and I hear he's doing really a terrific job. It's called Make Argentina Great Again. It worked out perfectly. He came in, he bought a lot of hats, he brought over, but he's doing a big job. He really cut. And I'm hearing
Yeah.
they're starting to do pretty well. Inflation's getting down. They had like
Yes, exactly.
2,000%, and they had inflation like not normal inflation. They had the real deal. But we're going to
Yeah.
have that pretty soon. We have, I think we
Yeah.
have the worst inflation we've had in 100 years. They say it's 48 years. I don't believe it. I think we have the worst. They
Yeah.
don't include a lot of the items that should be included. You know.
Yeah. Well, it's just from government overspending and not spending taxpayer money
Yeah,
effectively, and having just like so many departments, you can't even name them all. And what Malay is doing is he's cutting government spending. He's simplifying things. He's having putting in regulations that make sense. And I and we're Argentina overnight is experiencing a giant improvement
that's
in
right.
prosperity. But it's also a lesson for the United States, which is that um, Argentina used to be one of the most prosperous countries in the world. Um,
Right.
in the like in the 30s, 40s, and because of bad government policy, it ruined the country. And if you take Venezuela, for example, Venezuela should be incredibly prosperous. They have phenomenal